All right, I am here with Matt Wolach, software sales coach and host of the Scale Your SaaS podcast. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Awesome. Well, great to see you today. I'm really excited about this collaboration because you are a software coach. I'm a software coach, but we come at it from different angles. I'm more on the product and technology side, and you're more on the sales side. So we're going to have a head-to-head showdown between the two teams. No, I'm just joking. But no, I'm really excited to learn from you about your experience and tips and tricks and best practices, do's and don'ts around selling in software companies. So this will be exciting, not only for our audience, but even just for me personally, because this is an area that I am the first to say is not my area of expertise. So I am your student today.
Well, I'm super excited for it too, Eric. And I agree. In my past, I have seen, product sales as kind of a showdown, but the best experiences I've had with some of my companies is when they work so well together. And that's how you want to set it up, is to make product and sales work in sync. I mean, obviously the goal is to grow the company. And so everybody wants to figure out what can they do. And each side, each team is really important on that. Both sides have to work. I say it a lot. It's not going to work if either product or sales is not working. You're toast. You got to have both in line, in sync, and just humming along.
Absolutely. So we'll dig into, exactly how to make that happen. But before we do, I'd love to just hear about your journey a little bit, your background in tech, and then how you became a sales coach.
Sure. Yeah. It's been a while. I'm going to feel pretty old, but mid 2000s, I got into SaaS.
That's
for the
right. We
first
both
time.
got some gray hair showing on the side.
Yeah, I know. And it was kind of funny. We launched, and we were so excited. The product we had, we knew was going to revolutionize, and everybody's going to love it, and it was perfect for them. It was going to solve a problem, and we were going to be super rich right away.
Of course,
that didn't happen. It was really a struggle to try and generate leads and try and get people to even understand who we were, and to get them to figure out that they needed this and to convince them to buy it. And so it was hard to generate those leads. It was hard to get the leads to actually sign up. And then we also kind of were new at this whole game. So once they signed up, like, how do we handle that? And how do we make sure that they're happy? And how do we continue to grow the product? And it was definitely a struggle. And it was one of those things that's like, hey, we put so much effort and time and money into this. It is all that going to go to waste now? Fortunately, I was able to discover some processes, some methods for growing. And once we put those in place, we took off. And this company, I mean, it was a hockey stick trajectory of a takeoff. We started to get amazing leads, lots of them. Those leads were super engaged with us. We were able to close those deals. And very fortunately, I was able to transfer that and have somebody else take over so that we could scale the company without me having to do all these calls all day, every day. And it was a fun journey. It took 10 years. We exited. It was a very nice, very big exit. I decided, hey, that was a lot of work. Why don't I just do that again? And so I'm not sure what I was thinking, but decided I could do it again with a totally different market, totally different product, totally different team, different everything. Launched that one, but that one sold in 2 years. So I think what happened was, the processes that I had discovered, these formulas, the first company taking 10 years to figure it all out. Well, once I figured it out, boom, it worked. That second company, 2 years, I had already known, okay, where are all the roadblocks? Where are all the pitfalls and potholes that I might hit? I knew how to go around them. I knew how to navigate them, and I knew how to scale quickly. And that was super fun. So after the second one exited, I'm like, okay, well, now what? Well, a few people had asked me, like, hey, it looks like things are going well for you. Tell me how you did that. I want to do that as well. And so I kind of give them some advice and help. And I realized, oh man, this is fun. I like sharing these answers to the tests, and everybody goes off and does great stuff. I bet this could be a thing. And so I decided to become a software sales coach and just help people, help founders and leaders of software companies understand the right ways to be able to get leads in the door and close those leads really effectively, really quickly. And it's worked pretty well so far. So over 3 years, I've been doing it, and we've got about 250 or so companies and founders who have come through our program and worked with me. And the joy that I get from seeing someone who comes from a struggle place and they're really hurting and they don't know what to do and they feel stuck. And Eric, I know you encounter this as well with some of your clients. And then to give them a tip and show them this and explain how to do this and walk them through this program and show them this. And then all of a sudden, bingo, it clicks and they're selling and they've got deals coming in and they're making all kinds of cash. And some of my clients have even had great exits. To get that email or that call from them, they say, Matt, your information, your help was a game changer. I mean, that's everything I do it for. That just gives me so much joy. I'm beaming about it even right now, talking about it. So
I know, I'm feeling it too. I love those. Those unlocks are just, that's what it is. That's the crack that we go for, you know?
Yep.
Same experience with me. You know, I mean, I've been in product and tech for almost 20 years. And I just found, even just as a leader, that I got more joy from seeing others succeed than myself. Like, I wasn't so hungry for my own success or my own recognition. What really, you know, just gave me joy was seeing other people thrive and be successful. So as a mentor, as an advisor, as an investor, as a consultant, as a coach, as an accelerator, facilitator, you name it. I just love to see, you know, people get unstuck and be successful. Again, from my perspective, by building incredible products, building great engineering teams, and scaling up. It's so rewarding. Yeah. Everyone asks me, you know, are you going to jump back in one day? Are you going to found another company? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Maybe one day, but it would probably end up just being a passion project that got out of control, you know?
Yeah. Totally agree. And I did actually jump in about a year ago, picked up a software company that we acquired. But we have a great team that's doing a good job running that thing. And I still get that juice of being a part of figuring out some of those challenges and solving these problems and selling. But I love the coaching. You know, it's so fun to see people grow and thrive. It's just a great time.
Yeah. Amazing. So in your experience, you had mentioned kind of early on how you were stuck, and then you discovered some processes and some things to scale up. So what were some of the things that weren't working in your companies?
I mean, you name it. Lead generation, I think, is one thing that everybody really struggles with. Yeah. You know, it's kind of one of those things. The old way in software back in the 90s, even maybe early 2000s, you know, if you build it, they will come. And that was kind of a thing. Like, hey, you build a great product, people are going to find it and they're going to get started. It's not the way anymore. That's not what happens. You can't just go out and build something. There's so much software on the market. In fact, buyers have software fatigue. So everybody is pitching them. If you put CEO in your title on LinkedIn, just sit back and watch, because you're going to get all kinds of pitches about this tool, this amazing thing that's going to save you so much time or money or make you millions of dollars. You will get crushed with requests to sell software. Now, this software fatigue means it's really hard. You can't just launch a product and hope that it's going to work. You need to do something. Now, of course, maybe that's getting people to push the product for you, right? So you don't necessarily have to have a sales-led strategy. A lot of it, by the way, does depend on your price point and the market you're targeting. But you've got to do something to get that in front of people so that they say, yes, I need this. This is going to solve my problems. And that was a challenge for us. We didn't know how to drive leads. We didn't know how to set that up or come up with different marketing channels and campaigns and get people to actually want to get into your pipeline. And then once they we're like, okay, now what? And so we didn't exactly understand how to run a demo, how to get people excited, how to get them converted at each step. And it was frustrating. Fortunately, we figured it out.
Yeah. So how would you kind of break down the sales process? You mentioned sort of lead generation, demo, and conversion, but what would you say are kind of the big buckets of activities where people have the most challenges?
So I actually have a model, and this is one of the models that really kind of turned us around. I call it the 4 pillars of exponential SaaS growth. There are 4 pillars, 4 things you need to do on your growth engine to make sure that you're going to actually get there and survive and then eventually thrive. So number 1 is attract. And by the way, the reason I call them pillars is because you have to have all 4 working. If any of them are not working, your foundation crumbles and you're toast. It's not like, oh, 1 or 2 are good. You have to have all 4. So number 1 is attract. You've got to understand how to attract perfect fit, ideal customers to you. Now, part of this is, first of all, knowing who is your ideal customer. So we go through a whole process of understanding your ICP. That stands for your ideal customer profile. So you know, first of all, how can you develop the product towards that person and their needs and their challenges and what they care about? But also, how can you make sure the marketing messaging aligns with them? And even the lingo that they use, that you're using that in your marketing so that they feel like you get them. That's number one. You've got to be able to attract a massive amount of perfect fit leads who at least know about you and are at least a little bit interested in what you're doing. Number two, engage. Now, a lot of people think, oh, I need to engage them. Well, actually, you need to be good enough about getting them to engage. Whatever it is you want them to do, once they come to you and they kind of start to realize who you are, we need them to take that next step. So some companies want them to start a trial. Some companies want them to book a demo. Some companies just want them to watch a video or a webinar. Whatever it is you want them to do, you have to get really good at getting them to do that and getting them to do that at high numbers. Now, most software companies totally forget this pillar. They totally forget engage. They know that they need to attract leads. They know they want to close the leads, but they don't think about those middle stages that the buyer needs to go through to become more connected to your brand and more committed to the idea of using your product. So the companies that aren't good at this, it becomes a real struggle to try and get people to actually sign up. But the companies who know it and understand how to do this, it makes it a lot easier to get them engaged, a lot easier to get them passionate and emotional and get them closed. So we attract the right ones. We get them engaged. Now, number three, we close. If you're in a B2B sales process, the closing process, especially if you're a higher price point, is going to be, you're going to need to be involved and going to need to talk to them at some point. And so how you talk to them matters. A lot of times what people do, and I actually just, for those of you who follow my YouTube channel, you'll be able to see it, but I just came out with a YouTube video explaining this. A lot of people think, okay, well, they want to know about the product, so I'm going to get on and I'm just going to walk them through how the product works. And we'll show them this screen and how that works, and then the next screen and the next screen. That's the problem. Demos are not training. We're not training them. It's not our job right now to train them how it works. We just want to show them the results they can get and the goal that they can achieve by using the product. And so people who go on and just train, you're going to miss. You're going to lose deals very quickly. First of all, it's going to be super boring. They're not going to love it. And they're not going to remember anything you talk about, but they're going to remember the emotions they felt or that they didn't feel. And they're going to either feel a lack of emotion or they're going to be very bored the whole time. Plus, if you're training, you're going to probably talk about stuff that they don't care about. You need to focus on what they care about. I'll get into that in a little bit. But also, you're going to go too quickly over the things they do care about because you have to cover all the other things. And so if you're just training, you're in a bad way. I learned that the hard way. I figured out, okay, we want to more connect to what they're doing. So the third pillar is close. We need to close deals. There are specific things we can do before the call to get them warmed up for the call. There are things we can do on the call to make sure that they are absolutely passionate and emotional. And there's things we can do after the call to make sure they're taking steps towards action. Missing any of them, you're probably in trouble. You're not going to close the deal. Once you hit them, that's when it starts going like clockwork. So we have attract, engage, and close. Now, those three, Eric, those three are some of the hardest things to do for a startup founder. It's very difficult to finally get those three things working, much less the fourth pillar, which we haven't even talked about, but just those three. In fact, about 92% of software companies never accomplish those three. For the ones who do, they get the awesome reward of smashing into a brick wall before pillar number 4. And I nailed this thing, just crushed it, because you finally get things working, okay? You're attracting, you're engaging with them, you're closing deals. It feels good, but then you realize, uh-oh, it's just me. I've been doing all this work and I'm putting in 14, 16-hour days every day to make this happen. I need a breath or I'm going to burn out. I got to get to that last pillar, the fourth pillar of scale. I need to scale what I've done with somebody else. I need to repeat this process with somebody else. Much easier said than done. And this is why people run into a wall. First of all, before I get to that, and I have a story around this, it's very, I don't know how to say it best, but it's very common for people who launch a software product, especially if they're technological, to think, well, I don't want to sell it. I'm just going to hire somebody who's an expert to sell this. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend it for two reasons. I think founders should sell initially. And by the way, even if you feel like I'm technical, I don't want to talk to people, I'm not good at talking to people, you can do it. Let me tell you about Artem. Artem is one of my clients, a Russian immigrant. He lives in California now, Russian immigrant, thick accent, and an engineer. And he literally told me, he's like, Matt, I don't think I can sell. Russian accent, and an engineer personality. And he meant that. He meant that he's not really bubbly or happy about stuff. That exact stereotype. He said, I don't think I can do it. I said, yes, you can. You just don't understand the right process. And since you're an engineer, you understand formulas, you understand process, you can do this, you can follow this. We put in place. He 4x'd his revenue. He 4-timed his revenue, which was already solid, in 6 months. And if you have the right process, you can do it. By the way, he doesn't have to sell anymore. He has an amazing team doing it. And so that's my story. It's important for a founder to do it. The founder must sell because you want to understand your market better, especially in the early days. Those conversations are invaluable. I mean, the stuff you'll take away from the people you talk to, you'll be able to apply that to your product so your product can get better and can be more aligned with your perfect customer. You can also apply it to any marketing messaging that you have out there. We talked about using their lingo. You can also put it into your sales process to make sure it fits with what they need. And so you have a really great understanding of exactly how things should go. And once you do bring somebody in, you're not going to be in the dark. You're not going to just hope, well, I hope they do it right. I have no idea, but I hope they do it. Instead, you'll already have done the process. You'll know what's good and bad, and you'll know that they're doing it right or wrong. And so it's very powerful. Founders need to sell initially. Do you agree with me on that, Eric?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I'm the one that's always evangelizing. You have to get close to your customers, build relationship with your customers. That's how you understand what to build. But then on the other side, there's nobody more passionate about what it is that you're building than the founder, right? And so everybody else is going to be kind of parroting or paraphrasing, what the founder's vision may be. So at the very early stages, even if it's just, hey, I'm just trying to understand who my customers are, and I'm trying to, share some of my passion about what it is that I've devoted my life to. Well, how do you delegate that? I mean, you can eventually, but there's lightning in a bottle with the founder sales thing. It's really something that you step out of it when you have to, right? But as long as you can, I mean, I think that you're the best one to do it.
I totally agree. And you just said a word that is the reason why it's hard to hand this off. And that's why so many people hit a brick wall once they start getting it right and they decide, I'm going to just hire somebody and we're going to get to the fourth pillar of scale and repeating. They hit that brick wall because guess what? You've been able to do these things mostly because you have so much desire to see your company win. You care about the market. You care about your team. You have those big goals. You have that, just like you said, passion for what you're doing. But anybody else you bring in, they're never going to have the same level of passion as you. Even if you hire great, you train great, they're an employee, you're a founder. They're not going to have the passion you have. So that's where the struggle is. And in fact, that was exactly my situation. I was working so many hours. I'm like, okay, we need somebody to take over. Brought in a sales guy, great background, great experience. He came in and sucked. He couldn't sell anything. And it was so frustrating. I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't have your background. You have this amazing experience. And yet I'm selling, you're not. What is the problem? I eventually had to let the guy go, and it was sad for both of us. And I looked back at it a couple weeks later. I said, hold on, it wasn't his fault. It was mine. And when I kind of looked at it, I said, I was able to do this because of that passion that I have. I kind of forced this all to happen. He doesn't have that. So there's no way it's going to work. And it made me realize the people you bring in, it's not going to be passion that does it. They have to have process. And that was the big aha moment for me. Created a process based around what I was doing successfully. That's where my perfect deal process came in, and that's where this model, we can talk about that in a second. And I brought in 2 guys that didn't have nearly the same background as the first guy, not nearly the same experience. But I taught them the process and really made sure that they understood it and lived it. They went out and they sold just as well as me because they had the formula. And when I knew I could do it with 2, I knew we could do it with a lot more. We grew the sales team to 30. The company had 400 people when we exited for quite a bit of money.
Wow. It's interesting. I'm noticing a lot of parallels here between the sales process and what we do in product, and especially product discovery. So a few things you'd mentioned. One is around engaging with your customer versus having them engage. The first thing that I teach everyone in my accelerator is your first mission as a founder is to go out and engage with customers and to build relationships, right? And to listen and ask questions and be curious and so on. but that it becomes the thing that doesn't scale. And so the next step is, well, how do you get them to come engage with you? And so the first system that we build is a sort of an inbound discovery process where people are curious about a thing and they maybe pre-register for a product, or they sign up, or they do a survey or something, or even as they're signing on and using your product, that there are drips and incentives and ways for these interviews to kind of drop on your calendar. And these are people that are interested, they're curious, but they also feel that pain, and it's enough for them to give you 15 or 20 minutes of their time. So that's kind of the first parallel that I saw there. But then even in terms of the conversion side of things, I have this model or philosophy I call discovery-led growth. So we have sales-led growth and then product-led growth. So discovery-led growth is through these interviews and through this engagement process with these customers, you build this relationship, you get to understand their problems, and you build these solutions that nail them. And so they're like, okay, please take my money, right? And so in the early stages, this becomes your early sales funnel, right? When you're getting that first level traction. And that's something that just sort of continually is ongoing. And an area that, again, I was curious to talk to you about is how do we kind of weave these two things together, because we have leads kind of coming in from both sides. And then in terms of the passion, it becomes product's responsibility to amplify the voice of the customer. And specifically coming from an engineering background, there's this myth that, engineers don't care about customers. They don't care about business. They just want to build things. Well, yeah, that's because you keep them in a cave and you don't give them any sunlight. You don't show them what's going on. If you actually engage them with the customers and create that empathy, they do care. And in fact, by being passionate, they build better products, right? The products become higher quality. They move faster because they actually feel that their work has meaning. And it's the same exact thing. And obviously what we're talking about here is kind of silly because you're just humans.
Mm-hmm.
Humans care about other people and helping other people, and that the work that they're doing matters. But it's amazing how we kind of both sidled up to a similar process from two different sides.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. I haven't heard anybody else describe it that way, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, describe the product side that way, but it's so true. And you're right. For us on the sales side, discovery is critical. In fact, in my perfect deal process, which we can get into, that's the first thing. D is discovery. And it's just, it's crazy the difference of those who do it well versus those who don't do it or don't do it well. And it's just a complete game changer.
Well, let's dive into it. Let's talk about your perfect deal process.
Love it. Yeah. So it's a process around how to run a sales call or a demo extremely effectively. And this is one of those things I came up with when I had those aha moments getting that company rolling. And it absolutely changes the game when it comes to closing deals. One of my clients, Paul, he had no idea what it was. He was at 26% on his close rate for his demos. After implementing it and using it, he's at 87% close rate, so 26% to 87. Wow. It's just, there's story after story about it. But what it is the DEAL in perfect deal process is an acronym. So each stands for something. And it kind of is your reminder of what to do during your demo. So starting with D, just like you said, discovery. It's absolutely critical that we do a proper discovery. Now, you're going to go research something and somebody's going to go out there and find something called BANT. You're going to find another thing called MEDIC. There's all these kind of acronyms around how to do discovery. I actually don't like either of those. They are good. They kind of get you to a certain level, but neither of them goes far enough, especially for us in software. Let me explain it this way. So I have a lot of analogies. My clients are always laughing about my analogies. So I have a knife analogy. The knife analogy, and it's maybe a little gruesome for some, but it's a good way to understand how to run discovery. And so I like telling it. When you do it for enough, and you're absolutely right, Eric, the best software leaders and founders have gone out and had those conversations with people in the market even before they got started. And so somebody comes to you. Let's say you're ready to sell. Somebody comes to you and they say, my shoulder hurts. Now, obviously, in a software situation, that's not the real problem. But they're saying, my shoulder hurts. Well, people who don't do proper discovery will start to figure, okay, how can we solve this shoulder problem? I want to solve this. Oh, our tool does this, and it's this, going to fix your shoulder. Real people who have really gone through this and understood, not real people, but people who understand this and have gone through the training and get how to do it, they're going to use their experience and their expertise to identify what the real problem is, because it might not be the shoulder. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. And so people who understand, they're going to look at it and say, oh yeah, the shoulder doesn't look great, but you have a knife in your belly. That's a worse problem, I'm telling you. And so in their head, they think, oh yeah, they've got a big old knife in their belly. But most people don't kind of take that step. They stay and say, well, that knife looks terrible, but they told me the shoulder's bad, so I'm just going to show them how to fix that. And the problem is, if they don't have enough pain around that, if they're like, yeah, the shoulder kind of sucks, but it's not like absolutely horrible, they're not going to have enough motivation to take action. They're not going to move off of their pedestal and take action. And that's one of the things that sometimes people need to understand about sales is 80% of the deals we lose in sales, 80% of those lost deals are lost to inaction, meaning the buyer did nothing. They didn't go to our competitors. We often think they're like, oh, I wonder who they chose. They never called me back. They must have chosen ABC. No, they probably did nothing, which means we didn't do enough to just get them moving. And that's our first goal is you got to take action. And the one way to do that is make sure they understand they have bad pain. So step one is identify what the true pain is. Use your experience, use your expertise, and figure out what actually is the pain. We do this through asking good questions and understanding the industry, understanding the market, what people are going through, and really trying to discover what's really going on. That's step one. Most people who understand that stop there. They don't do anything else. They figure out, okay, they probably understand that that knife's pretty bad. I'll kind of just beat around the bush and make sure they understand that they could solve that too, but I'll focus on the shoulder. Not good. You're not going to close a lot. So step two, the next level of person will realize it's not good enough just for me to identify it. I need them to identify it as well. So I'm going to call it out. I'm going to make sure they understand, hey, by the way, that shoulder doesn't look great. You have a knife in your gut. I'm thinking that that's pretty bad. That's step two. Again, it's not enough because just calling it out, the buyer may look at, oh yeah, so there's a big old knife there. That's all right. I've been living with it this long, and this is what happened. Buyers, they realize that they're working. They're at work, and work is work, and it's not supposed to be fun. And so yeah, that's just what we do. We deal with that, and we have Mary that takes care of that, and she works on that, and it takes her half a day. Whatever. Like, they're going to explain it away. They don't really care. And that's a problem. A lot of our buyers know that they have a problem, but they don't even think that it's a bad thing. And so most people stop at step two. And in fact, what they do, right, what any sane person would do, but this is an analogy, is they would pull the knife out and say, okay, well, now you've seen it. Great. I'm going to solve the problem. Here's our tool. It's going to do this and this. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. It's got this. And look at this drop. That's not good enough. Because again, if they haven't felt the pain, if they don't know how bad that knife is, that it could potentially kill them, then they don't care. They're not going to take action. They're not going to move off of where they're standing. And so most people stop at step two thinking it's going to work. Not enough people get to step three. And step three, only 3% of sellers are actually doing this in the software world. Only 3%. It's my mission to make that a lot more. And so it's an elite level tactic because of that. And some people say, well, okay, when I get good, I'll do it. No. It doesn't mean that you can only do it once you're elite. It means if you do it, you are now in the top 3%. You are elite. So do it. And the third tactic is, instead of pulling the knife out, twist the knife. We want to make sure they feel pain. Now, some people are saying right now, oh, this guy's such a jerk. He's the reason everybody hates salespeople because they are hurting customers. No, that's not what I'm advocating for. Please don't hurt your customers and don't knife them. This is an analogy. What I'm saying is sometimes your buyers have a pain, but they don't know how bad it is. They don't know how critical it is to their operation, how much it's going to kill their business moving forward, how much it's really hurting their entire team. They don't get it. And so in order to make sure they get it, we need to twist that knife. And the way to twist that is to ask them questions around it. Okay, so Mary, you mentioned, is working on this. You said she's working half a day on that. How often? Anytime it happens, how often does it happen? It happens 10 times a month. So she's spending basically 5 days a month working on this little thing to solve that and fix it every time it happens. Yeah. How much you paying Mary? Oh, wow. You're paying Mary $60,000. And so 5 days a month, calculate. So 60 days a year, she's doing this. So basically 2 months out of the year, take that $60,000. Okay. Well, $12,000 is what you're spending on this? Is that what you're telling me? On just this thing? And they're going to be like, oh boy, I had no idea. Trust me, they will not know. And so you just became their consultant because you just identified a massive issue that they had no idea was even a problem. And by you, one, uncovering it, and two, reacting, they're going to say, whoa, we're in trouble, because that reaction is big. If they say something, and this goes back a long way for me, because I grew up in hospitality. I was educated in hospitality management. That's my degree, hotels, restaurants. I was drilled with the customer is always right. Make them happy. Don't upset them. And so if they ever said something that I knew was wrong, I would just say, oh, okay, cool. No, don't do that. You have to make sure they understand that they are wrong, that they're in a bad way. And so if they say something, I know it's weird. Sales is different than everything else. That's why a lot of people struggle at sales, because they're just doing what they think is right. It's not the right way. And so if they say something that's wrong, that's bad, that's hurting their business, we need to react. And it would go like this. Yeah, so we have married. Wait, what? You have a person spending time on it? Is that what? And you go into it, and the way you react tells them, uh-oh. Through this conversation, I've learned that this person talks to people like me all day, every day. And if they're talking to people in my position at different companies throughout the industry, and they think I'm really bad, then I must be in last place. We must be bottom of the barrel and really hurting compared to everybody else out there. So what do they know that I don't? What are they doing that we're not? And now they're freaking out. Now they're saying, uh-oh, they just uncovered that we're spending way too much money and time on this. We're also way behind the rest of the industry. We need to fix that fast. And if you twist the knife like we're doing here, people are going to say, I have got to move. I need to take action now. It is absolute gold. People who've done it are killing it.
Amazing. Yeah, again, I see so many parallels here in product. You know, we talk about customer pain points in product management all the time, right? Why do we create a feature? It's to solve some customer pain. And so I actually looked at pain research, and just basically what you're saying, that humans are really great at putting up with a lot of pain and suffering. It's an adaptability trait. It's what got us to where we are. But what that means is we have a lot of inertia, and we're willing to deal with a lot of pain until we reach that breaking point, that burnout. And so we talk about the frog in the frying pan, and how that's what we're all doing, right? Or what our customers are doing. We're doing it as well. We just continually accept a little bit more pain until we're toast, we're roasted. And so we just basically try to uncover, like, well, are you, like, you're boiling, right? There's fire going on underneath you. Like, this is crazy. But I guess I'm thinking about it from a builder side of things, less from, oh my gosh, there's that knife, like, really dig it in and you should come buy the solution. It's more like, okay, somebody's complaining about their shoulder, but what's really going on? Where's the real pain? Oh, it's the knife. Like, oh, that's interesting. We should go build a solution for that. So again, it's just coming at it from a slightly different angle, but I'm loving how close we are. And we talked about this at the beginning, the showdown. There's so much tension between product and sales in so many different ways, but we're kind of doing the same thing. We're doing it for the same reason, and I feel like we should figure out a way to work more closely together. But let's keep going in your process here, because I want to get to the L before we run out of time.
Perfect. So the next one after D is E. So E is for educate. We need to educate our buyers. Now, there's a lot of steps to this. It takes my clients weeks to understand, but I'll focus on one thing that's really important. In educate, we talk about stories. In fact, there are 3 different stories that buyers need to hear. Forrester did some research a while back, and they realized that there are 3 stories that can really impact a buyer's understanding of what you're doing and connection to you. Number 1, our personal why. Now, if you're going to get on a call with somebody, you're going to spend 30, 45, 60 minutes with somebody. They need to hear about who you are, right? More than just, okay, let's dive into the product, let's do this. Before that all starts, like, make sure you share your personal why. Why are you doing what you do, and why do you care about this? So powerful. And so you want to do a little 10 to 20 second bit with something maybe personal and a couple things maybe of your background to show that you have some experience, and what I call an undercover testimonial. And so let me share mine, and then maybe that'll kind of help you see. And so mine would go, hey, let me just explain who I am. My name is Matt. I have a beautiful wife, awesome 2 little girls. They keep me on my toes for sure. That's my main focus. But I've been in software for 16 or 17 years. And throughout, I've been focused on how can we get better at growth? How can we market? How can we sell? And how can we make all that happen? And so I've been able to implement a lot of marketing channels. I've done thousands of software demos. And now what I do is I coach other people on exactly how to do that extremely well. And one of the coolest things for me is when somebody sends me a note that says, Matt, your advice completely changed the game for us and changed our trajectory, and we are so happy we had it. That's what I live for. That is my biggest joy. So that's a little bit about me. Let's learn about you. And that is it right there. Personal why. A little bit about you personally. So now you're a person. You're not just some nameless whatever selling. You also shared some experience on why you know what you're talking about, and a undercover testimonial, meaning you shared that you love that you get notes from people that they love what you do. Right there, that's like saying people loved what I do and how I help, or they love my product. You get a free testimonial without it sounding like a testimonial, sound like you're bragging.
Without boasting, yeah.
That personal why, yeah, now they're connected with you. Now they're like, oh, I love this person. It's so cool. And now you can have a good conversation. And so we have to give our personal why. Most people don't. It's crazy.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I've been approached by a vendor who really tried to get to know me or create that human connection before we started talking about the product.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And if one did, it would differentiate them, right? You'd be like, whoa, this person's on it.
Well, and I'm, this person doesn't even exist. And I'm already thinking, if somebody did that to me, like I would feel almost obligated to buy from them because I would care about them at that point.
Exactly. The other thing we need them to care about, the brand. But that's hard. Like to get people to care about a brand, unless you have $80 trillion like Apple and you have great marketing, you're not going to do that. People don't care about brands. People buy from people. But maybe there's a way we can get them to care about the brand. And so the way to do that is to not talk about, a lot of people are like, oh, we want to talk about all these amazing companies we serve and how big we are and how awesome our team is. Guess what? Buyers don't care. They don't care about all that stuff. Like the main root of what they care about is how you're going to help them. But what they do care about with regard to your brand, again, studies showed this, they care about your company founding. How did the company come to be? How did that all play out? They don't even know that they care about this, by the way, but when you tell it, they love it. So the way that would go is something like this. Okay, now before we get into this product, I know you're interested to see it, but I just kind of want to explain how this thing came to be. Let me tell you about Steve. Steve's our founder. He was struggling. He was really trying to solve this. Is really efficient for him and his team, and they were basically just like you, but they couldn't solve this problem. And so he said, there's got to be a tool out there. He went and looked all over the place. There was no tool that solved any of this, and it was so frustrating for him. So he decided, we're just going to build it. So they built it out. Initially, they thought it would just be for them, and it solved all their problems. It was great. But then they realized, hey, other people could benefit from this as well. And that's when they offered it out. And wow, it's been so cool to see how many people have gained from using this tool. It's been a lot of fun. Okay, let's dive in. And just telling that company founding history, 30 seconds or so. Now you've changed the brand to a person who had a problem, who has the same problem, who's just like the person you're talking to. And those people are going to identify with that person. They're going to connect with that person and realize they're just like me, only a little bit ahead of me. And it's amazing how powerful it is. You now have connected them to yourself and to the brand before you even showed any of the product.
Yeah, so I call it kind of the outsider problem, right? Where so everybody's paranoid that people are selling to them, but they're not like them, right? They're not a part of them. They don't get them. And because a lot of times it's true, right? I'm being sold products all the time by people who just have nothing to do with me, or maybe I don't even know who they are. But if somebody comes to me, I say, okay, they're just like me. They get me. They understand the problem that we're dealing with here. So whatever they're building must be great.
So true. And the way you said that right there is exactly the way I coach it. They get me. If you use the right lingo because you know the market, if you're talking about things that you know that they care about because you know the market, they have this feeling that you get them, right?
Yeah.
You share your history about how you were just like them or how the founder was just like them. You get them. And that's so important. I love that, Eric.
Another interesting thing I'm thinking about is when we go to raise money, right? When you go to in front of VCs and you do your pitch, absolutely the first and foremost, the first thing in the deck usually is the founder's journey, right? The story of how the company came to be. And that is it's first because it is so critical to get VCs to invest in you, to connect in the same way, because ultimately you're selling, right? You're selling shares of your company. But at the same time, your customers are investing in you as well. Every time a customer buys from you, they're investing in your company. They're buying into that promise, into that journey. So of course you want to share the founder's journey. So that's incredible. No, I mean, I love this.
Awesome.
Okay. So let's move on to A.
Well, hold on. There's one more story that's really powerful, because I said 3 stories. So we've got the personal why, we've got the company founding, and the third story is what most people might think of as a story, is a customer success story.
Right.
Customer success stories are one of the best ways that you can sell and get deals to happen, but they must be relevant, okay? So if you're trying to sell to Coca-Cola, don't talk about the mom and pop down the street that's getting great success from this. Coca-Cola won't care. And vice versa. If you're trying to sell to the mom and pop down the street, don't talk about how Coca-Cola absolutely loves this. They're going to think you're way too big and not for them. We've got to make it relevant to either their size, geography, their situation, the pain that they're going through, something. You've got to connect it. And when you tell a story the right way, people are going to feel connected to that person, especially in the beginning. We talk about the struggle. Oh, they're just like your struggles. It reminds me so much. And then you explain the journey they went through and using your product and now the results. Once they've connected themselves, now they're going to see themselves getting those results. So it's really powerful. You have to, don't just say, oh, I'm going to tell stories, because you won't. You have to craft them beforehand. You have to practice them, and you have to deliver them.
That's really interesting. I actually experienced this a lot in my own coaching sales process, that every client, the potential client that I talk to, really asks for that. They want to hear a story about a similar founder in their situation. And I always find that I'm sort of going through my Rolodex. I'm like, okay, who's kind of like you that had a similar, okay, and then what happened? But I'm usually telling those stories off the cuff, but just to have maybe a few a little bit better rehearsed and well fleshed out might, it might improve my conversion rate as well.
It's exactly right. It does. It's hard when you're in the heat of the moment of the call.
Right.
To like, oh, what was, I don't know, I can't remember. And how should I tell it? You might bumble it, but if you practice it beforehand, and in fact, so in our sales process on the actual calls, we have a discovery call first, then we have the actual sales call. We use about 20 different stories, depending on what's important to this person we're talking to. Now, if you go to mattwolach.com/reviews, you'll see dozens and dozens and dozens of success stories and all that. And basically, we've picked some of the best in different areas, different struggles, different sizes that we can retell to somebody else and say, this is what relates to you.
Yeah. And again, it's just another human connect. So you've connected with me as a salesperson, you've connected with the founders and their journey, and you've connected with other customers that have had a similar challenge to you. That's what this is all about.
Exactly. And if you think about it, like we said before, you're differentiating. That's what it's all about. You've got to be able to separate from everybody else they're looking at. And if you do these things, nobody else is going to do those. You're going to destroy competition.
Wow. Differentiation through empathy. I love it.
Exactly. Okay, so A is associate. So now that we've discovered, now that we've educated, we need to associate our tool, our solution, to their needs. Okay, so if you've discovered they've got this problem, they've got this challenge, they're trying to get this goal, we need to specifically focus on those things and how this tool solves those things. And so again, we talked about it before. If you just go through like a training session and just talk about everything, they're going to get so bored. They're going to hate it. And they might even be so bored they gloss over the stuff that's actually important to them. But if you really line it and you go, okay, well, they struggle with this. Let's hit that hard. Let me show you exactly how you're going to solve that and eliminate that. And you want this goal. We're going to nail this thing. And so associate is very powerful because to them, you've gotten them really worried. You twisted the knife. They hate this problem. And you just showed them the problem's going to go away. Whew, like incredible. One of my clients, Greg, was at a 1.9% close rate on his demos, like really tiny. 1.9%. He learned this. He went through discovery. He's now almost 40% on his close rate on his demos, from 1.9 to 40, because he learned how to discover and associate so well that they say, I've got to have this because I hate this problem now, and this absolutely solves it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, if I were at 1.9%, I'd probably be looking for a new line of work.
He said I was his last hope. I remember when we got started, he said, Matt, I've tried everything. You are my last hope. I hope it works. I said, let's rock and roll.
Wow. Phenomenal. And then L?
L is lead. Now that we've gone through everything else, we need to lead. We need to take charge. We need to be the ones in control the entire time. This is a very scary phase for a lot of people. It's very scary because, again, in a sales process, if we're selling, we almost feel like we're serving and we're subservient to the buyer. But in the real world, it needs to be a partnership, right? And in fact, I like to try and get the mindset in my clients that they are so lucky you reached out to them. You have such a great product. This tool is incredible. You've put so much work into it. You know it's going to be perfect for them. They are lucky that you reached out to them, and even luckier that you went to Matt's training and learned how to actually sell them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bought. Because think of the impact that you have if you can actually get them to get started. Your tool is going to help them, which means their business is going to be better, which means they're probably going to grow, which means they can hire more people. So those people, there are people out there that are going to be future employees of this business, and those people are going to have families. You are impacting so many people because you can sell well. But we have to take charge. We have to realize how important it is for us to be in control, which means we need to be in the lead. And if we do this well, we can lead them right to the close. And so instead of saying things like, if you decide to get started, we say things like, when you get started, you're going to have this, you're going to have an onboarding specialist, you're going to have this training. And we assume the sale. If you've done everything right and you assume the sale that way, they're just going to follow along and follow your lead. And think about, again, how different that would feel if somebody comes off as a consultant, as a guide. They helped you uncover problems you didn't even know existed in your own business. They only just met you, and they have a ton of experience, and they've really kind of gone through and shown us how we're going to solve our problems. And now they're showing us how we can get it set up as quick as possible. This person's amazing. The other guy was just trying to hawk something. He didn't even know my business or know me. Like, it's incredible how well it works once you get it start happening. One of my guys, Mike, he struggled with this, and he actually was very frustrated about how difficult it was to take charge. He thought, he was trained like I was in customer service, that it's whatever they say goes. But that's not the case. We have to take the charge. And he went from a 19% close rate to 71% close rate on his demos. I mean, you're closing 7 out of 10 demos, like, just go nuts on marketing because you're going to just kill it. Yeah. So when you can do this, it works extremely well.
Yeah, so what's really interesting here is that what makes the software business different from, let's just say retail, we're not buying inventory and reselling it to you, right? I'm not just a salesperson who's saying, here, buy this thing. We are the foremost experts in the industry about the narrow slice of the world that we've decided to build a piece of software around, right? There are some obviously big platforms and whatnot out there, but SaaS is typically this really narrow domain, whether it's in a particular market segment or a particular set of use cases. And so the customers aren't just coming to us to buy a tool. They're coming to buy our expertise and our credibility and our leadership, that we know this space, however narrow it is, better than anybody else. So whatever we tell you to do, it's just the right thing to do.
It's so true. And I love that you said that. It reminds me of my personal trainer analogy, and that's one of the ways I teach lead. So let's say, okay, the holiday season, you got a little bit big, a lot of cakes and cookies. By the way, I'm speaking from personal experience. This is pretty much me every holiday season.
Same here, man. The camera only goes to here.
Yeah, exactly. And you realize, I need to trim up a little bit. I need to get fit, get in shape. And so you go to a personal trainer. You're like, I don't want to just mess around with trying to do it myself. I need somebody who's going to really make sure I do it. So you go into the trainer and you walk in and you say, okay, trainer, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some run over there. I'm going to squat that. I'm going to push that thing around. No, the trainer is the expert. They're the ones who know how to get you in shape in the most efficient way. And so they're going to be the ones who design the plan of what you need to do. Same thing in software. You are the expert at how to solve this problem. So don't let them push you around on what they think they need. You dictate how they're going to get that solved. And if you've done everything right up to this point, and if you've shown you're an expert and you connected with them and they believe you and you showed them the problem and you showed them the solution, they're going to absolutely want to follow you.
I think the interesting point you mentioned too is around almost kind of isolating them, right? That you're off doing something very different, but here's what everybody else is doing that are getting results. And so just come and be like them and you'll get similar results. And I even noticed throughout this conversation, you brought in a lot of customer success stories, right? So that got me really bought into this as well, as like, well, yeah, I know a lot of people like Artem and you know, the other folks that you mentioned, right? We've all been through this, but now we have people that we can relate to.
Exactly. And so the things you need in sales, you need pain and you need trust. They need to believe that you can do it. And those stories show that we've done it before. We can do it with you again.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. Well, thank you so much for sharing this model with us. This is great. I'm not only for our audience, I'm going to listen back to this and work it into my own business as well, share it with my clients and my accelerator members. How can people find you if they want sales coaching or want to level up their sales practice?
Sure. So you can go to mattwolach.com, mattwolach.com, and you can go in there and actually I have a thing right there. You can text me and ask me any question you want. I also am very active on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So find me at either one of those places and let's connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt. It was great to have you today.
Absolutely, Eric. Thanks for having me.